feel like I've seen everything. So some companies post the full range. Some companies say, well, let's just post like the middle third. A handful of companies I've come across have posted the minimum to the midpoint, which is kind of curious to me. But my issue with any of that is if you are internally transparent and internally you're beginning to move towards posting your ranges, and then you go off and post a different range because you've got a different policy on external postings, how do you reconcile that with a candidate who joins thinking they negotiated up to the top of the range and then gets inside and realizes that actually there was a whole other half to the range they didn't know about it? So I understand the challenges with posting wide ranges, and it does kind of mean that recruiters and hiring managers probably need to be more trained in how to speak to it. But to me, that kind of feels like the lesser of the evils. But I'm curious across the panel as to what you'll find. What's the direction here? What is the emerging practice that companies are moving to?
Yeah, I would agree with what you're saying, James. I think the goal of pay transparency ultimately is to create trust with employees, right? And to create kind of a level playing field for candidates. And so are you building that trust by not sharing the full minimum to maximum of your range? And I think to Paul's point earlier, you really have to kind of look at what each state's regulations are. So that good faith term that you used, I know that's very explicitly called out in the New York legislation. But if you look at kind of Washington State, for example, it says you have to show the lowest to the highest salary that the employer could possibly pay. And so if you think about doing this for every state, how do you do it in a sustainable and scalable manner? Because you're having recruiters who are having to go into job postings and actually manually input in a lot of cases these numbers, and it's confusing when you don't have a consistent set of principles you're following for what to include within the range. And so I'll just share it for Expedia Group as an example. We are sharing our full range within our job postings, so the minimum to the maximum of the range. But we've clearly specified within our postings that candidates should expect to come in between the minimum and the upper third of the range. So like some companies, we have the minimum, midpoint, maximum, and then you have a lower third, which is that halfway point between your minimum and your midpoint. And then you have your upper third, which is the halfway between the midpoint and the maximum. And again, everybody wants to come in at the top of the range, but you have to create that context for candidates that we actually expect people who come in at the top to have demonstrated excellent sustained performance. And that's something that you just gain as you're on the job. So yeah, I think there's a lot of different approaches, but again, the goal here, I think, is to build that trust with the candidate.